You are lying in bed, the lights are off, and your brain suddenly remembers something you said 3 years ago. You said one stupid sentence. Now your brain wants to investigate it like a murder case. What if they thought you were weird? What if you should have answered differently? What if that tiny moment actually changed everything? You already know the answer probably does not matter. So why can't your brain let it go? The strange part is that overthinking is not simply your brain being too active. It is your brain trying to protect you. And sometimes that protection system gets stuck doing the exact thing it was designed to stop. Imagine your brain as an ancient problem-solving machine. Something happens. A threat appears. Your brain asks a simple question. What do you do next? If a predator is nearby, thinking is useful. If food is disappearing, thinking is useful. If someone in your group suddenly becomes hostile, thinking is very useful. You notice the problem. You search for a solution. You act. Then the problem ends. But modern problems often do not end that neatly. Someone leaves you on read. You make a mistake at work. You have an awkward conversation. You wonder whether someone likes you. There is no tiger to run from. There is no obvious action to take. So the brain keeps searching. And searching. And searching. What happens when a problem has no clear answer? This is where thinking can quietly turn into overthinking. Psychologists often distinguish useful reflection from rumination. Reflection tries to understand something so you can move forward. Rumination keeps returning to the same material without producing a useful next step. It feels productive because your brain is busy. But motion is not the same as progress. You can walk around the same room for an hour without getting anywhere. Your thoughts can do exactly the same thing. Research by psychologist Susan Nolen-Hoeksema helped establish rumination as an important pattern in emotional distress. Her work examined how people respond to difficult moods and showed why repeatedly focusing on negative thoughts and feelings can keep those states going. Notice what makes this so strange. The brain is not necessarily asking, "How can I make you miserable?" It is asking, "Can I understand what happened well enough to prevent it from happening again?" That is a very different question. If you made a mistake, your brain wants a lesson. If someone rejected you, your brain wants an explanation. If you embarrassed yourself, your brain wants a rule. Next time, do this instead. Next time, don't say that. Next time, notice the warning earlier. The problem is that the brain often cannot tell when enough information has been collected. So it reopens the case. Maybe there was another clue. Maybe you missed something. Maybe the answer is hidden inside one tiny detail. And suddenly, you are replaying the same conversation for the 20th time. But there is another strange trick happening here. The more you try to stop thinking about something, the more difficult it can become to stop thinking about it. Daniel Wegner, a psychologist at Harvard, became famous for studying this effect. In his thought suppression experiments, people were asked to avoid thinking about a particular thought, famously represented by a white bear. The instruction sounds easy. Do not think about the white bear. But to know whether you are successfully avoiding the bear, your mind has to keep checking for the bear. Did I just think about it? Is it still there? Wait. Why am I thinking about the bear? And now the bear is back. This is called ironic thought suppression. Later research, including a 2020 meta-analysis of 31 studies, found evidence for a rebound effect in which suppressed thoughts can become more accessible afterward. The lesson is not that you are incapable of controlling your mind. It is stranger than that. Sometimes trying to force a thought away gives your brain another reason to monitor it. And monitoring is attention. So when you lie in bed saying, "I need to stop thinking about this," part of your brain is still checking whether you are thinking about it, which means the thought stays on the mental radar. But why does your brain have such a powerful radar in the first place? Because your brain did not evolve in a world filled with unlimited information and endless possibilities. It evolved in a world where uncertainty could be dangerous. You did not need to know everything. You needed to notice what might matter. A strange sound in the bushes, a change in someone's expression, a missing member of the group, a food source that suddenly disappeared, an injury that was not healing. Your ancestors could not afford to treat every uncertain signal as meaningless. Missing a real threat could be costly. So your brain became very good at detecting patterns, and pattern detection has a dark side. Once your brain detects a pattern, it wants to complete it. That is why an unanswered message can feel strangely uncomfortable. There is a gap. You do not know what the other person is thinking. Your brain hates the gap, so it starts generating possibilities. Maybe they are busy. Maybe they are annoyed. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe they are losing interest. Maybe something happened. Notice what just happened. You started with one fact. They did not reply. Your brain built an entire universe around it. That universe feels real because every possibility is accompanied by emotion. But a possibility is not evidence. Your brain can simulate an event without predicting it accurately. This is one reason overthinking can feel so convincing. You are not just thinking about a possibility. You are experiencing a miniature version of it. Your body can react to imagined social rejection. Your heart can speed up. Your stomach can tighten. Your muscles can tense. The thought creates a feeling. Then the feeling makes the thought seem more believable. And now you have a loop. Thought, feeling, more thought, more feeling. Psychologist Ethan Kross has studied the inner voice that can become what he calls chatter. Your inner voice is incredibly useful. It helps you plan. It helps you rehearse conversations. It helps you learn from mistakes. It helps you imagine the future. But the same tool can become repetitive and unproductive when you lose psychological distance from the problem. Instead of looking at the problem, you become trapped inside it. There is a subtle difference. You are no longer asking, "What happened?" You are asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" You are no longer asking, "What can I do?" You are asking, "What is wrong with me?" The first question search for information. The second question search for an identity. And identity is much harder to solve. This is why overthinking can become exhausting. A problem has a beginning and an end. An identity has no obvious ending. If your brain decides, "I made a mistake," there is something you can learn. If it decides, "I am the kind of person who always ruins things," every future event becomes evidence. Now the brain is not solving a problem. It is building a case against you. And this connects to something surprisingly important about mind wandering. In a famous 2010 study, psychologists Matthew Killingsworth and Daniel Gilbert used experience sampling to ask people what they were doing, what they were thinking about, and how they felt in daily life. Their findings showed that people's minds wandered a large portion of the time, and that mind wandering was often associated with lower happiness. But mind wandering itself is not the enemy. Your mind needs freedom. It needs time to connect memories, imagine possibilities, rehearse future events, and generate ideas. The problem begins when wandering becomes a treadmill. You leave the present. You enter the past. You replay. Then you jump into the future. You predict. Then you return to the past to find evidence for the prediction. And suddenly, an ordinary Tuesday night has turned into a courtroom. You are the witness. You are the prosecutor. You are the defendant. And your brain is the judge. But here is the counterintuitive twist. You usually do not escape overthinking by thinking harder. You escape it by changing the relationship between thought and action. Suppose you are worried that you made a mistake. You can replay it another 20 times. Or you can extract one lesson. What exactly would you do differently next time? That question forces the brain toward action. If there is something you can do, do it. If there is nothing you can do, the remaining task is not to discover a magical hidden answer. It is to tolerate uncertainty. That is difficult because uncertainty feels unfinished. Your brain wants closure, but life rarely provides complete closure. Sometimes the message never gets answered. Sometimes you never find out what someone really thought. Sometimes the decision you made will always have an alternative version you could imagine. The brain can keep generating those alternate versions forever. You do not have to keep reading them. This is where psychological distance can help. Cross and other researchers have studied forms of self-distancing, including speaking to yourself, using your own name, or the word you, rather than always using I. It sounds strange, but changing the language can create a small amount of distance between you and the thought. Instead of saying, "Why am I such an idiot?" you can ask, "Why is Viva Swan upset about this?" Or simply, "Why are you still thinking about this?" The problem has not changed, but your position relative to it has. You are looking at the thought instead of being swallowed by it, and that distinction matters. A thought is an event in your mind. It is not automatically a command. It is not automatically a prediction. It is not automatically a fact. Your brain can produce a frightening possibility without knowing whether it is true. It can produce a memory without proving that the memory matters now. It can produce a question without promising that the question has an answer. So the next time your brain starts replaying an old conversation at midnight, notice what it is trying to do. It may be trying to protect you. It may be searching for a lesson. It may be trying to make uncertainty disappear. You can listen without obeying. You can ask one simple question. Is there an action here, or only a loop? If there is an action, take the smallest useful one. If there is no action, you may already have enough information, because thinking is not the problem. Your brain was built to think. It helped your ancestors survive uncertainty, detect danger, remember mistakes, and imagine tomorrow. The problem is what happens when an ancient problem-solving machine is given a modern problem with no clear finish line. A message can stay unanswered. A mistake can stay embarrassing. A relationship can stay uncertain. And your brain can keep knocking on the same locked door, convinced that if it knocks one more time, the answer will finally appear. So tonight, when your brain suddenly remembers something you said 3 years ago, remember this. You are not discovering a forgotten disaster. You are watching an ancient survival system search for an ending that may not exist. And sometimes the smartest thing your brain can do is stop searching.